Hello guys, welcome back to another beautiful and exciting episode. Today's video is from Young America's Foundation. Okay, I've never done a video like this. This is going to be my first video about things like this, conversations like this, trans people and all of those yada yada yada. Yeah, so this is my first video about them and I hope it goes well. Today's video is from Young America's Foundation. Trans people shows up at Matt Walsh's event. Watch what happens. Okay, were you invited to his event? I hope you don't come and spoil the event. Anyway, I would love to know what's going to go on here, but before we get into the video, my name is Ogechi. This is Ogechi Reaction. If you're stopping by for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for clicking and saying this beautiful girl talk. Before you go any further, click on the red subscribe button, like this video, share, drop a comment. Okay, so it's important that I watch till the end, okay, so that you can get or understand what's going on in this video. Don't watch and stop, okay? Watch till the end and drop a nice comment. Let's get the conversation going in the comment section, and don't run away. Subscribe, like and share. Let's get straight into today's video.
Everything that you have said on gender identity, gender expression, John money, pronoun usage, what else? The sex gender distinction, you are 100% correct.
Wow.
You are 100% correct. I don't know if you've ever heard that from a trans person before.
Okay. A trans person actually saying that.
So I'd like to say that I'm actually a part of that organization that was going to come and try and derail you tonight. I didn't hear a single thing, though, that constituted an attack on queer or trans lives or an attack on me personally. So I don't know what they were on about there. Moreover, everything that you have said on gender identity, gender expression, John money, pronoun usage, what else? The sex gender distinction, you are 100% correct.
Wow.
You are 100% correct. I don't know if you've ever heard that from a trans person before. I identify as a trans woman. You are 100% correct on there. And it is an absolute travesty that the trans community bases everything on such vacuous concepts. My thing is, though, is I don't agree with your conclusion. I don't agree with it. And but more so the reason why I don't is less a matter of argumentation and more so a matter of method. You've stated time and time again that your approach to this is to try and keep things simple and uncomplicated. As in, you don't try and engage with the nuance of the position of trans people. But that's exactly how my org treats you. They don't think that your arguments are worth looking at because they cast you as a transphobe. I did otherwise, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, no, this guy's absolutely correct on all these things.
So which conclusion are you? You said you disagree with my conclusions.
Well, it's the conclusion that of the model that you're postulating of gender. Of it's just this, you have man, woman, they're biologically contingent. My sort of question is, do you think that defaulting to simplicity, if this is the most dire issue of the age, which is something else that I agree with you on, do you really think that a method of simply recoursing to the most simplistic matter of approach is what we should be doing here?
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
You don't
because
think?
Okay.
I mean, I appreciate. I appreciate everything that you said. And I appreciate your attitude. I very rarely encounter your attitude from that side of the ideological aisle. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I do think that making it simple is the right approach because, to my view, it is a very simple question. Now, if you want to get into the personal experiences of each individual and someone who is who's experiencing gender dysphoria and what do we do to treat that problem? Sure, there's all kinds of personal, subjective nuances and things like that. And if my child came to me and said that they were confused about their identity, I wouldn't just say, get out of my face. I would want to sit down and talk to them. And that's when you get into, that becomes a sort of an interpersonal exchange. And so you get into some of those personal nuances and everything, and that's fine. But the underlying fact, the underlying reality is simple, that there are only males and females in the human race. There are no other categories. There is no third sex. It doesn't exist. Even though we hear about intersex people, an actual intersex person would be someone who has the reproductive capacities of both men and women, males and females. Such a person has never existed, ever. So what I see here is a binary system, and in that way, it's very simple. And I think that has to be our message. Yeah.
So Matt Walsh got this trans person in his audience, who does not agree with some certain conversation he had. But he is trying to say there are only two sexes, which I think is basic knowledge. Okay. Basic knowledge. We have only male and female. Even though now we have, intersex and all of those things, we have only male and female. Nobody has both genders. I don't know. But let's just continue.
I would still even say, respective to that even if from your standpoint, there's only this binary, there's two. There's complexities and nuances even within social navigation that still might be worth you looking into. I would also say that a lot of your facts also are off. Respective to, for instance, the first sexual reassignment surgery actually happened in the 1920s. So that was before John Money. So it's not a case of
I didn't say his was the first.
What?
I didn't say his was the first. It was probably the first one done on a 2-year-old, but I said he was the one who invented. You started by saying you agree with everything I said, and now we're going back and you disagree. I'm a little confused now.
My point is that if you have it to where you can get to a different conclusion from the same arguments, it means that there might be something deeper going on here that for people who are actually philosophers, not rhetoricians, need to be dealing with.
Okay, we got to move to the next question, but let me just ask you this so we can clarify where we are. Yeah. Do you agree that there are only males and females in the human race?
No.
Okay, so you definitely don't agree with my conclusion then at all.
No.
We actually are totally on opposite sides of this question, it turns out. Okay, so what are the other categories if not male and female?
Okay.
We are going to be here all night if I have to do that.
We're not, because there's none that you can list, so it's actually a very short conversation.
All right, well, you're wanting to say that you have these other social categories, right? It's a question of, you're saying are, right? So the question here for me would be one of ontology, insofar as we're trying to posit that there is some kind of specificity, right? And you would look at something like intersex and say that this is like some kind of weird border case, right? It's a question of the kind of continuum that would allow for one to come into an embodiment that you would cast as male and female. I mean, something that's very interesting is you said that something like age is makes more sense to identify as. You at one point had female genitalia when you were in utero. So you've passed through that, right? And what happens to intersex people is that there's just some kind of like different there's a different development that occurs there. So respective to us talking about these categories, it's not a case of there being this hard line thing. I mean, the reason why we also are not going to get anywhere here is because I actually would agree with you that something like woman is what would, in a technical sense, be called a floating signifier. So it doesn't have this like particular designatable meaning to it, right?
All right.
So that's why we're not going to go anywhere.
That's pretty clear, but I appreciate it. Thank you for the thanks.
Matt Walsh is trying to understand this guy, but he's he agrees. He does not agree that there is a male and a female gender. He feels like they are more. Of course, the queer people think that there are more genders or more sexes apart from the male and the female. Okay, so this is where they are both at. Matt Walsh is saying we have just both genders. Okay, biologically we have both gender. We just have the male and the female gender. And then he's asking this guy, okay, which other gender? And then he goes on and 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 on. Anyway, let's just continue.
To the question.
Thank you.
I just want to make just two quick follow-ups on that. Is that one thing? I think that this is a tactic that you encounter on the left all the time when it comes to gender, which is to try to obscure it and make it sound complicated and to throw a lot of, these sort of abstract ideas into it.
At all.
And from what I've discovered, and this conversation didn't change my view at all on that, is that that's the only tactic they have, right? Is to just try to make it seem complicated, but yet while also not offering any alternative answers at all. And the final thing on intersex, because maybe someone else will bring this up, just so we could get that question out of the way. because it always comes up. Number one, intersex, that category has nothing to do with trans, right? You know, trans man or trans woman is a biological male who identifies as a female. So even if I were to agree that intersex people are some sort of exception, that would do nothing to vindicate the trans man, because that's a different category. But as it turns out, intersex people are not an exception. These are people who suffer from a deformity, from a condition. Just like someone might be born with one arm rather than two. That does not negate or undermine the fact that human beings have two arms. But if someone is born with only one, then you know that something went wrong along the way. They ought to have had two, but they didn't because something went wrong. So a deformity or a sickness doesn't undermine the principle that we're dealing with.
Okay, I think Matt Walsh was very clear in what he's saying, and what the questions or the conversation the trans guy was trying to say did not change his opinion or what he thinks about the genders. And then he mentioned something about the intersex people, saying that, you know, there's an exception to them. You know, the fact that someone is born with one arm, or the fact that someone is deformed on one arm, doesn't negate the fact that a human being is born with both hands. Okay, but a trans woman is biologically a man, right? So I think sometimes when conversations like this come up, these people make it seem so complicated. I don't think it is that complicated. It is simple. It's a simple fact, right? So whatever is going on in your head, or, you know, it's not that difficult. It's not that hard to understand. Even though, yeah, these modern days, we have a lot of things going on now. Okay, people are coming up with different genders, you know, and all of those things. We still have two genders, which is the male and the female. Okay, let me know what your thoughts are on this conversation, and let me know what your thoughts about it. Let's try to be respectful in the comment section. Okay, let's be civil and not be rude. Thank you very much. Do well to like, share, subscribe, and drop a nice comment. I'll see you in my next episode. Bye bye.